What the hell? Hello?
It's me.
Who?
Me.
Who?
You.
Oh, the other Thabreez. So what's up?
Yeah, so listen. So you know how I was trapped in detention, right?
Yeah.
Well, they're finally letting me go.
Oh.
So I'm gonna come back home and together we're gonna remake our first video.
Oh, that's great.
You haven't made any other videos while I was away, did you?
No, I definitely didn't make any other videos while you were not here.
You're making another video, aren't you?
I'm making another video.
Mobile games are dead. Mobile games aren't fun anymore. If you're on the internet, you've definitely heard one of these statements before.
Actually, if you're not on the internet, then how are you watching this video? I'm sorry for writing that into the script.
It is the general consensus surrounding mobile games right now. However, it wasn't always like this. There was a point where it seemed like mobile games were going to kill console games. In fact, one of the reasons Sony claimed their second generation handheld console, PS Vita, failed was because of the rise of mobile games, which according to them was going to kill handheld gaming and even console gaming. Oops. That's how rapid the growth was at the start. Just the prospect of this all-in-one magical device that could do anything was amazing. That first iPhone is single-handedly the most influential product to our current generation. Unless you're me, in which case the invention of the undo button was the single greatest invention of all time. Shut up. Just wish I could undo certain things in my life, like my experience with I love Call of Duty Mobile. I've made tons of videos on it as well. I was hoping COD Warzone was going to be the same. I was immensely excited for it, even as it kept getting delayed every time I decided to blink. However, it only took me a day to realize that it wasn't going to happen. If you played the game on launch day or even launch month, you know how abysmally the game ran and played. Low graphics and frame rate, glitches, and for me, and I'm sure others, insane amounts of overheating. If you want to play Warzone Mobile, you better keep the phone in the fridge for a solid 5 minutes before you start playing. All topped off with a ridiculous file size. COD Mobile, which has multiplayer, battle royale, and zombies, takes up less space than this PS2 looking ass game with just a battle royale mode. I scrapped the video, but then thought, okay, I'll cover the game later as like a 1 month later type thing. But then 1 month later, even though it had definitely improved, it was still in a baffling state and I scrapped the video forever. Call of Duty Warzone Mobile was just kind of indicative of the state of the mobile gaming scene. The big budget AAA studios are sort of in their own league, thinking that our phones are literal supercomputers, and the indie devs, while coming up with the more polished offerings that everyone can enjoy, often end up going under the radar and never receiving the recognition that they deserve. And so they quietly disappear, which discourages more indie devs from making games and thus reducing that side of the pool. Mobile games are in a bit of a pickle right now. A lot of mobile games still make a shit ton of money. So technically they are still profitable, you might say. But the thing is, you are stupid. Sure, mobile games make buttloads of money. But do you think that's because people are genuinely shouting the praises of the game from the rooftop? Or is it because mobile games essentially extort money from you through the practice of... Now, I'm not against microtransactions entirely. Wait, let me explain. If they don't grant you a competitive advantage and aren't forced down your throat, then it's fine. I get for a lot of these mobile games which are free to play, the devs need other ways to monetize it so that they can keep up with server maintenance costs and also so the employees of the company can eat more than the empty promises of their lives.
That got a bit too real, I'm sorry.
However, mobile games don't implement microtransactions in a way that I consider ethical. Call of Duty Mobile, Diablo Immortal, and more are basically filled with items, roulettes, and completely random loot draws. In other words, these transactions follow the basic principles of gambling. I think enough videos have covered this subject, so I'll move away from it because it's a fairly serious issue, and I like to keep my channel somewhat lighthearted.
Oh, what? I'm supposed to do something funny now?
So that's it, right? Mobile games are as dead as my head after doing that jump.
Didn't I already do this gag in the previous video? I really need better writers.
I'm an optimist when it comes to most things, especially within the gaming and movie industry. So I always try to look on the bright side of pretty much everything and anything.
In some regions, it's called being naive and stupid.
I've grown up playing mobile games. In fact, I have more experience with them than I do have with console gaming and even PC gaming. It wasn't until my late teens when I actually got a taste of true console gaming with systems like the Xbox 360. Which I got in 2018. Wow, Thabreez, you're so cool. You got an Xbox 360 in 2018. Tell us more.
Why did they remove all my progress? Game, I didn't forget about it. What the? Huh? Hello? Okay, here we go.
Anyways, where was I again? Oh, right. And as you can assume, I also got to experience the supposed golden era of mobile games. I loved Plants vs. Zombies. I lived and breathed the original Temple Run. My hatred for pigs came from playing Angry Birds. And I learned the difficult journey of shower water from Where's My Water. Does anybody remember that game? But I've also thoroughly experienced the modern era of mobile games with your Fortnite mobiles, PUBG Mobile,
PUBG Mobile,
and Candy Crush. Thabreez, we have to finish the video, man. Thabreez, Thabreez, stop playing Candy Crush. So I think me and generally the people in my generation have the most balanced experience with both old and new eras of mobile gaming. So which one is better? Honestly, I don't know. Now that answer might come off as surprising to a lot of you, considering how the first half of this video was me going on and on about how modern mobile games encourage and enable unhealthy gambling habits. And I still stand by that. Sorry. However, looking at the games themselves and setting aside the invasion of microtransactions, it's not really as clear-cut as you'd imagine. Old mobile games were super simple pick-up-and-play experiences. Remember, mobile phones back then were ultra-focused on portability. They were small and compact. Damn it, my script disappeared. Where did my script go? Almost every major mobile game was a single-player, offline, bite-sized adventure that barely took up any space. But in the year of our Lord 2024, the world has rapidly evolved. Thanks in part due to internet infrastructure becoming more prominent in our day-to-day lives. And modern mobile games, for better and for worse, reflect that. Nowadays, mobile games are these meaty, always online games that sometimes take up more storage than common sense does in my brain. Hell, even games that are multiplayer nowadays require internet because for them to serve you ads, they need to connect to their servers. Now, some games are fairly generous with this. A common tip I'd hear in my school while playing games was just turn off the Wi-Fi so that the ads don't show up.
What do I do now, Joel from 8th grade?
Yeah, some games don't let you off that easy. Now, for the 15th time in this video, it might look like I'm painting modern mobile games in a negative light. But looking at these two games side by side, tell me, which one looks like a game that you would be able to squeeze more out of? Remember, both of these are free. Plants vs. Zombies is the answer. But for a free game, Call of Duty Mobile is insane value for money. Sure, we have microtransactions in the game, but so did Plants vs. Zombies. I think a lot of people forget that a lot of old mobile games actually did have microtransactions. The difference is that back then, microtransactions were completely ignorable. But now, if you want a certain item in a game, you pretty much have to cough up a few bucks. But clearly, the money from the microtransactions is going somewhere. Think about it. We are getting a nearly console-quality Call of Duty game for free. And as someone who hasn't spent a single dime in this game, mostly because I can't find my mom's credit card, I can tell you that the experience is almost as good as Call of Duty Black Ops 2, which I played a ton. Now, I realize there's more mobile games than just Fortnite, PUBG, and COD Mobile. But that's exactly my point. Whenever we see people discussing how mobile games have fallen, we almost always see them talk about how big the game file size is. But not all mobile games are like that. If you're a fan of old school mobile games, those types of games still exist. This is one of my favorites. It's a game called A Chance of Saw Blades. I just realized I called this game one of my favorites and I got the name of the game wrong. It's a game called A Chance of Saw Blades. It's stupidly fun and insanely addicting, but not badly addicting like Flappy Bird or Candy Crush. Sorry. Or here's Bloons TD Battles 2. I barely hear anyone talk about this game, but it's strange because this game is basically a free alternative to the very popular Bloons TD6. Yes, it's modernized with microtransactions and a shop and chess and stuff like that, but if you want, you can completely ignore it. Applelight is a really fun 2D platformer that's completely offline and everything. Sure, it's a little basic, but for a mobile game that you can just whip out and play, it's really good. My point is that, as much as we all complain about the state of the mobile gaming scene, and rightfully so,
What the fuck is this?
we are also ignoring all the actual hidden gems out there. Sure, the fact that these games are somewhat hidden is what makes them hard to discover for most people. I totally get that, but both the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store almost consistently recommend a lot of new games. I discovered most of these games because the App Store highlighted them. I didn't actually go digging for days on end to discover these games. They were handed to me and I gave them a shot despite not really knowing what I was getting myself into. There's also another side to mobile gaming that I would be a fool not to mention: emulation.
Don't worry, I already pre-ordered my spot in prison. I got the best seats in the house. Oh look, that guy is getting raped.
Now, strictly speaking, emulation is a fairly taboo subject, and I know emulation doesn't technically count as mobile gaming, but fuck it, I'm counting it. There's nothing you can do. This is my video. A lot of kids my age growing up didn't have Game Boys or PS3s. They had iPhones, Samsungs, and Windows phones. So, for a lot of them, emulation was a way to experience a lot of classic games. I know emulation is a lot more synonymous with PC nowadays, but I can't even begin to tell you how many people experience classic Pokemon games with a GBA emulator on their phones. And more recently, Apple started allowing emulators on the App Store, and this has opened this realm to even more people than ever before. Getting emulators on iPhone has led to me drastically decreasing my mobile games library because I have access to all these retro games with no internet access required. Now, you might say emulation doesn't count as mobile gaming, but it's games that you play on your phone, so I say it counts. If you really don't like modern mobile games and there are endless microtransactions and predatory behavior, go for emulators because they will almost always provide you a more fulfilling experience with games that are tiny in file size but still offer meaty experiences, all without an internet connection. I was also gonna mention Apple Arcade and Google Play Pass. That's a thing? Who the hell uses Google Play Pass?
Oh look, it's someone who uses Google Play Pass. Say, do you have any friends?
These subscription-based mobile games basically offer a Netflix-like service with tons of exclusive games, completely free of ads and in-app purchases. So these services are a neat idea on paper, right? But that's it. It's only a neat idea on paper. I do think these services are a huge missed opportunity. This is the perfect place to dump some console quality games with no ads or microtransactions to finally shut up those dudes who write 50 articles a week about the dying state of the mobile gaming industry. In execution, however, these services are just an excuse to plop on ad-free versions of already existing mobile games. These are all the games you know and love, but now without ads, but they have nothing else to them. Don't get me wrong, Apple Arcade has some really solid, well-polished games on it. So does the Google Play Pass. I'm assuming so, cause again, who the fuck uses this? Half of my Sonic Dream Team playthrough was me gushing over how amazing and well made that game was. And I'm sure there are other games on the service of a similar quality. But what I'm saying is that besides one or two titles here and there really aren't any killer games for the service. If there's a game that you really want to play, but it's only on Apple Arcade, there's nothing stopping you from signing up for a free trial, playing that one game and then dipping like my dad. Nothing really compels you to stay and try out other games. So again, these services are really neat, but they aren't fleshed out enough to really affect the overall mobile gaming scene. Only about 10% of Apple users in the US claim to be subscribed to Apple Arcade. So yeah, that's my take on why mobile games, despite all their flaws currently with microtransactions and predatory behavior, aren't quite dead yet. We have to remember that just like console and PC games, newer isn't always worse than the older games. We all to an extent have rose-tinted glasses on when looking at the past. We always say how much better gaming was in the past and constantly bash on newer releases, and sometimes rightfully so. But acting like every single aspect of games back then was better, is a little fucking stupid in my opinion. Sure, older games didn't ask you to purchase loot boxes or anything like that. But they didn't have saves. If you got a game over, you have to start over from the beginning. Try telling that to a FIFA fan.
What do you mean I have to start from the beginning? Mom, call the manager of video games. Tell them that I'm angry. So there we go. That was my take on whether mobile games are dead or dead. Keep in mind, everything I said in this video is just my opinion. I know you might be like, duh, that's obvious, but like, this is the internet, so I need to make that clear. Anyways, I better go from here before the other me comes home and finds out that I've been making a video without him. I found out that you're making a video without me. Oh.